Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Natasha Verma. Steve has the night off. We begin tonight with developing news. The Rent Guidelines Board reaches a final vote. Here's how it all shakes out. 1-year leases will see a 3% increase. It'll be 4.5% for 2-year leases, and all of this going into effect in the fall. Fox 5's Kendall Green is live in East Harlem with more on the vote and reaction from tenants and landlords. Kendall?
Hey, good evening, Natasha. This was a pretty intense meeting for several of these tenants, hundreds of these tenants who came in hoping for a rent hike, but the Rent Guidelines Board imposed a rent hike tonight for the 5th year in a row. Here are the numbers. For 1-year leases, the board approved a 3% increase in rent. For 2-year leases, they approved a 4.5% increase in rent. Those rate hikes from the Rent Guidelines Board were narrowly approved by just a 5-4 vote. And this latest hike will apply to tenants of New York City's 1 million stabilized apartments. Many of the tenants have been coming to these meetings pushing for a rent freeze, as their largest monthly expense has been a strain on their pockets. One tenant, William, who's been in his apartment for the last 30 years, told me just moments following the vote that this latest hike is going to force him to make some hard decisions every month.
To me, I have to be extra economical in buying food, because that's going to take out an extra $200 to $400 out of my pocket over the next 2 years. So that's like $8,000. And I'm scraping by as it is.
There's a normalization of allowing for unaffordability and allowing working class regular folks to struggle.
Now, you would think landlords would support this hike, but they tell me it stops short of what they were asking for on their end. The original range proposed ahead of the meeting was beneath the number they say would address their needs. Although tenants have pointed out landlords have made a 12% profit off rent within the last year, they say debt isn't accounted for in that figure, and maintenance costs on some of their century-old buildings exceed the numbers passed by this board. Here's Ann Korchak, the board president of Small Property Owners of New York.
They're old buildings, it costs a lot to upkeep them, and the quality of housing suffers when we don't have enough revenue, and rent is the revenue to operate these buildings.
Mayor Adams, who appointed the Rent Guidelines Board members, sent a statement regarding the vote that reads in part, quote, "Early today, I urged the Rent Guidelines Board to adopt the lowest increase possible, as I've done in the past. While the board exercised their independent judgment and made an adjustment based on elements such as inflation, I am disappointed that they approved increases higher than what I called for." NYC Comptroller Brad Lander, who cross-endorsed Democratic candidate for mayor Zohran Mamdani, also sent a statement in response to the vote, taking aim at Adams, saying in part, quote, "After carefully reviewing research compiled by the Rent Guidelines Board, I concluded that a rent freeze was appropriate for the upcoming year, following 3 years of rent increases that have raised rents by nearly 9%. Economists, tenant advocates, and even the city's own reports also conclude that a rent increase would lead to more displacement and inequality." Now this new hike passed tonight will take effect on the leases that begin on October 1st. But this latest here on East Harlem, Kendall Green, Fox 5 News. Natasha.
All right, Kendall, thank you. Move over, FOMO. You've got some new competition. It's called FOPO. Fox Eye's Meredith Corman shows us why more and more of us are living in fear of people's opinions.
We've heard of FOMO, but have you heard of FOPO?
In terms of hearing about FOPO as an acronym, I've heard it.
It's an acronym that stands for Fear of People's Opinions. It involves a fear of being judged or criticized or rejected by others. And experts say it's very common.
I think it's probably always been there. We are communal beings, so as a society and as a human, like Homo sapien, as a race, we've constantly been trying to compete with one another. So we both need each other and we compete. So finding peace in that dialectic is really critical.
In New York City, that fear of people's opinions ranged across the board from those we spoke to, from caring about what people think to not caring at all.
I think we're all afraid of people's opinions, so I think we're all very guarded. I don't think we always talk completely honestly, do we?
I think it's the New Yorker in me. We just don't care. We just walk around like we don't care.
You just have to live life at a certain point.
There's too many things to be thinking about. Like, you don't need to be worrying about what everyone's thinking about you.
The fear of other people's opinions may have always been a thing, but here's some ways to recognize if you are suffering from it. The expert we spoke to says burnout, discontentment, and not finding fulfillment in things that once brought you joy are signs. And mindfulness is the first step to getting past it.
If there's any kind of fear or judgment, mindfulness is doing what you're doing on purpose in the present moment and without judgment. And so if I am truly living that, that means people are going to have their opinions. And I need to recognize that it's just their opinion, it's their perspective, and really commit to who I am.
Meredith Gorman, Fox 5 News.
If you're planning a summer cruise, there's a new tax you should know about. Starting tomorrow, cruise passengers will be charged a $5 tourist fee when their ship stops in Mexico. The rate will eventually rise to $21 per passenger over the next 3 years. Travel experts expect about 3,300 cruise ships to stop in Mexican ports this year, bringing about 10 million passengers with them. And if you're on the fence over whether or not to take that power nap, new research shows that it might actually help you make a decision. That new study says a 20-minute nap can bring on sudden insight. In fact, 71% of the participants said that they've found a eureka moment after taking a 20-minute nap. The study was published in the journal PLOS Biology. And there's more of the 10 o'clock news straight ahead. We'll be right back.